Hey, so I am here to combine two popular styles of video into one unpopular video. So first of all, I've got some Mexican candy that my cousin put in my stocking. I don't live in Mexico. I live in Canada. So this is technically going to be a Canadian trying Mexican candy video, which everybody enjoys. I don't read a lot of Spanish, but from pictures, it appears that this is a pickle lollipop. I'm more excited about it than the face I'm making. I think I'm probably going to be into this. Yeah. It tastes, honestly, more cucumbery than I expected. I didn't expect cucumber to be such a dominant flavor. It tastes like a cucumber lollipop. It tastes like a cucumber rolled in sugar, which is fine. It's a little weird, but it's fine. And I want to talk about being over 30. And that you can actually, believe it or not, still do things. 30 is not a cosmic deadline. Believe it or not. So I've been seeing and enjoying a lot of videos from YouTubers who are like in the latter half of their 20s-ish, making these 30 before 30 videos. And I really like this kind of thing. I like seeing what kind of like funny things people have on their list of things that they want to do, what kinds of goals like people have. I like it. I'm not crapping on that concept, but personally, I think that when I was under 30, I thought of 30 as this age that like I needed to have all of my major things like underway by 30 or question mark, question mark, question mark. And there's lots of things that I did before I was 30. I had a literary agent. I don't know what else I wanted to do. I'd written a couple plays. But like there's also things that I thought, that I would get published before I was 30. I thought all of this stuff would happen before I was 30. And then I hit 30, and the thing that surprised me was that actually, like, it was a huge relief. It was like, oh, I don't have to do things before this age anymore because this age is now in the past. That's not even an option, that stress of hitting that deadline. So I decided that I would make myself a 30 after 30 list. Because, like, I can still do the things. And it doesn't really matter when I do them. Yeah. So this is my list, and some of these things, like, hopefully I'll do within the next, week. And some of them I might do when I'm, like, 76. Who knows? Some of them I might not get around to, and that's okay, too. Yeah, so this is my 30 after 30 list. All right, number 1, get an agent again. So I think I've talked about this in a video before. If you're going to lose your literary agent, I did so in the nicest possible fashion, because it was just a matter of her leaving the business of being an agent. So really no hard feelings on either side. Neither one of us had to fire the other. She's just not an agent anymore. And basically the only reason that I haven't gone into the process of querying again is just because I hadn't written another book that I was happy with, and I didn't want to go out again with the same book, especially kind of by the time that agent-author relationship was dissolved. I didn't necessarily feel like that first book was the book I wanted to go out with anymore. I had kind of moved on to other things. And so I've just been writing other things, and I've been doing other things, and so I'm kind of hoping that this year, like within this year and the next year, that I will get back into the query game. I am like a little antsy about that, but I don't want to do it before I have a manuscript in front of me that I'm really happy with. And I've got, I think I've basically been drafting a lot of things over the past couple years, and so it's just kind of like a situation where I just need to, just like buckle down, and then when I do, like, I have all of these possibilities in front of me, and I'm actually like feeling much more positive about that than I expected to, reflecting upon these past couple years. So that's cool, and that's still a thing like I get to do after 30. 2 is get traditionally published. I haven't done this before, so that's basically a lot goes along with the first goal. I think it will be an interesting adventure. It's not the sum total of what I expect out of my life as a writer. I think that has in many ways already started, and in many ways there's a lot to be seen. But I think that is part of that sphere that I would like to experience. 3, publish more than one book. That's pretty self-explanatory. I would like to not just have one book out there to say I did it. I would like to have more than one book, and to have a readership that's interested in following me through more than one story. So that's a thing. 4, self-publish something. I find like the more I look at, I think maybe the more I've taken a step back from pursuing traditional publishing, the more I've been doing zines, the more I think that I'm interested in experiencing like the difference in different like publishing methods and different things. Having explored that in like the zine world, which is like its own very specific thing, and in like some people may classify that as self-publishing. I think that it isn't, and I've actually been meaning to make a video about this for a while, about what I think is the difference really between putting out a zine, even if it's like a zine of a short story that like as in many ways identical to like a story I might like post on Amazon and self-publish that way, but the actual like, I mean, kind of the medium is the message. Anyway, I'm gonna make another video about that at some point because I think it's kind of an interesting question. But I would like to do the actual like self-publishing thing at some point, kind of just to find out if it's something that I can be good at. And also the more I get into writing sort of short things and weird sized things and like poetry, like the more I'm like, oh yeah, this could be a really, it could be fun to do this on a bigger scale that is not just like me and my photocopier, and put something out there. 5, put stuff on Redbubble. I was working on this today. Hopefully there'll be stuff up there soon. This is just like a very like, I mean, hopefully it could be helpful in the future, but it's also just kind of a very small goal that's very easily accomplished. Redbubble is like a site that like they make objects out of your art or out of things that you want objects to be made out of. I'm not explaining this well, but I will link in the down bar. And anyway, so I was at a craft show over the holidays, and a friend of mine had some stuff that he'd made through this site, and I was really impressed with the quality of it. and much more so than I've seen from other sites where you just kind of upload an image and then create things out of them. Like, it's definitely come a long way from like cafe press and stuff, so it definitely made me want to look closer at that form of creating things out of my work. 6, this is another like goofy, silly, easy one. Dye my hair teal. I bought teal hair dye like months ago, and it's just sitting in my cupboard, and I just need to do the thing, and then I'll have achieved it. But I can do that, even though I'm 31. 7, have a pet. I am 31, and I'm just like, I've lived with so many roommates and their pets, and I have never had a pet of my own, and I now live alone and plan on doing that for quite a while, if not forever. And I think it would be nice to have a pet of my own. And who knows when this will happen, but I would like it to. Yeah. 8, visit my parents' home in Cape Breton. My mother and father purchased a house in Lewisburg, Cape Breton, more than a year ago now, and I have not been there. Largely because, you know, it costs money to get there, and you have to, like, plan around your schedule and working and stuff, and I oftentimes work a lot in the summer, or have other things going on in the summer, because, like, I do work with kids, and I'm working at different camp programs, and all these kinds of things, yeah. And so I really would like, hopefully this summer, but if it doesn't happen this summer, I plan on being alive longer than that, so hopefully it'll still happen, to actually, like, go and visit this, like, shack by the sea, because it's there, and it's in a place that I like. At least theoretically. I haven't been to Cape Breton since I was 4. But in general, like, the east coast of Canada is a place I have great fondness for and lived in for 3 years. And I like a lot. And yeah, so it seems silly that there's this house here that belongs to my family, and I have not been to it. 9, learn to drive. I am 31 and I don't have a driver's license, and I do not know how to drive a car. And I don't foresee this one being one, like, I knock off super soon, because there's a lot of, like, again, like, you need a certain amount of money just to, like, go through that whole process. And then, like, there's the matter of, like, okay, well, I wouldn't want to do it if I wasn't actually able to at least have a car that I was, like, sharing with somebody, or, like, car share kind of situation. But it would be a useful skill to have. Yeah, so that's, like, when I think about it now, I'm like, yeah, that's way outside of my, like, financial league to even really be a useful skill. But I would like it to be a useful skill. And so when I get there, I will be pleased. 10. Hopefully this one will happen this week, because it was my Christmas present. Take my boots to the cobbler. I have a nice pair of boots. Nice in every way, except that the snow gets in at the back of the heels where they're worn down, and so I would like to take them to the cobbler like an old person. We have a cobbler in my town, which is very charming and, like, on brand of my tiny little historical town. So I would like to take advantage of this fact sometime soon, and this was my Christmas gift from my mother this year, was taking my boots to the cobbler. So hopefully that's what I'll achieve after the age of 30. 11. Finish my shirt blanket. Oh my goodness, I have to show you my shirt blanket. It's pretty self-explanatory. It's just a blanket that I'm sewing patches of old shirts. So far they're all theater shirts, but I also have some shirts set aside that are like camp shirts or choir shirts. I don't know. I went through a phase in my life where I was just acquiring... Oh, and I have like my frost shirt from the house I lived in. Like the dorm I lived in university. Anyway, so I just had like these shirts sitting in a box because like I haven't really worn them a lot. One has a lot of shirts. And some of them are not necessarily like shirts that I want to wear for fashion reasons a lot of the time, but they are shirts like I can't just throw it out because like that's the Fantastics or whatever. But it's also a white shirt that like I'm obviously gonna ruin if I wear it all the time. So I've just had them sitting in like a banana box in my closet, and I've been like carting them around going, I need to make something out of these. And finally, I started sewing them onto this fleece blanket. So it's kind of like my winter project, and I've been enjoying it. But I am also looking forward to like a moment when I'll be like, I finished that shirt blanket. And it doesn't matter that it took me until it was after 30. 12. Keep building my nest. Oh my goodness. Guys, I show you. The nest. It would have been so cool if I'd like looked at this list and prepared in advance of sitting down, but then it wouldn't have been as authentic, and it would have been as clear why I haven't done any of these things before the age of 31, because I'm disorganized as hell. Okay, but I have a nest. So some of you may be familiar with the art assignment, which is Sarah Urist Green's channel on the PBS YouTube channel thingies. Anyway, so the art assignment, for a long time, it was her approaching various artists that she admires as a like curator, art scene person, and getting them to assign the internet an art assignment. And one of these, I'll have to look up, I'll put in the down bar like who this was, who assigned this, but one of them was to make a rug. And I began specifically to make a rug out of like old t-shirts and clothes, and a lot of this is tights. So many tights. So I began making this rug, but it was like curving upwards, and that was because I kind of missed a step in the process. It's like a hand crochet kind of stitch. And I missed a step in the process, which was to add stitches as you go. And so it started curving upwards. But the thing was, by the time I realized that, I was like, oh, I like it. I'm building a nest. But I did it for like 2 weeks. I did this like every day for the longest time. And I was like very carefully documenting like what I added to the nest. And then I just like stopped. Because I ran away to Australia. That's the thing. That was the interrupting. But that was 2 years ago now, and I have piles of old clothes that I have not, and they're like too gross to donate to anything, is kind of the criteria I've been using. But I haven't gotten rid of them because I'm like, those go in my nest. Which is a great excuse if I was actually still building the nest. But I'm going to keep building the nest, and then I'll have a nest. And I think it'll be lovely to have a nest in my apartment. I've probably spent too much time on this nest, but I'm very excited about it. 13. Look into my family tree / ancestry. A lot of this, I think, is just like conversations that I would like to have, that I think I need to like schedule with people in my family, like my aunts, and my dad, maybe, who have like done a lot of the work for me, and just sort of looking at like what they have and like figuring out a way that I want to organize like this information, have like my own record that has like both sides of my family, and also like I don't know, like I'm really intrigued by the idea of like having a family tree that also like looks into like incorporates ideas of like your chosen family and your, you know, like the other families that you have like strong ties to. And then there's like specific weird questions I have about like branches of my family, like how closely related am I to the like Jersey Devil legend family, because they were a real family. That then there was this like mythical like cryptid legend built around, but they're a real family, and it's like because they're New Jersey Quakers, and that's a huge part of my background, like it's like 99.9% chance that there's like not that many degrees of separation between us and like the Leeds family. Anyway, so there's like weird things like that I would like to like organize those questions and figure out how to answer them and figure out how to like put that information together in a way that is like interesting to look at. And I think I wanted to go beyond just like a family tree. I think I want more than that. And I'm debating whether or not part of this process is doing like the like genetic testing thing, because, and it's partly because of that, like I don't know how much the genetic code stuff gives me the information I'm really looking for. Because yeah, there's just so much to us like that is not just your DNA. It's like what gets passed down through family that's not necessarily like related by blood. And I'm interested in like the DNA aspect. I'm interested in that kind of stuff, but I'm not sure. I'm just not sure if that's something like I need answers on that. Anyway, related, number 14 is to go to Scotland, because like our family is very Scottish, like including the American parts of our family. Like there's just a lot of Scotland up in there. And also, like, my grandfather emigrated directly from Scotland when he was 5, and there's a lot of stories that are, like, within living memory of, like, people that I have known who are alive or have been alive in my lifetime, and so there's some of those things that, that I would like to find out more about, and also, like, I would like to see with my own eyes, like, those places that have been important in my family. 15. This one's kind of a question mark. And it is become a foster parent. This is something like I feel fairly certain that I don't want to have like, or that I don't feel strongly, I should say, about wanting to have biological children. I don't really feel strongly about it either way. I probably feel a little bit more like, nah, like, but I do, like, I like kids. I love kids, and I do sometimes feel like I would like to be involved in, like, raising a child, and it's really important to me to be sort of like, to be one of like the good like safe adults in children's lives, and that's a lot of like what has guided like my career decisions and things like that, like more than anything else. And I think the natural extension of that is to be like the person or one of the people for like a very specific kid at some point. And so again, it's one of those things like I'm not in a position in my life at 31, even though many people are, where like taking care of a vulnerable human person is like 24/7 is within my capacity, but I would like to be. I hope for that to happen, and that is something like when I think about building my life towards him. Like, okay, that's something to consider, like, as you make future decisions, having that level of stability that can also be the stability for somebody else. So I'd like to, like, foster or adopt. But that one's a question mark. That one's, like, seems very distantly imaginable right now. 16 is to walk the Camino. I feel like a lot of people I know have walked the Camino de Santiago, and it just seems to be this, like, amazing, life-changing, somewhat cultish experience that I would like to have, because I love those things. And I like walking, I like hiking. I need to do more of these things, and I think I'm the kind of person who I'm more likely to get into something if it's, like, building towards a big project than if it's just, like, start a habit. And so, yeah, like when I decided that I was going to walk, like, this stretch of the Bibbulmun track in Australia, that I really started being like, okay, I have to walk, like, this far every day, and you have to, like, start challenging yourself more. Like, I kind of have to have that kind of goal in mind that's, like, I'm gonna do something and, like, see something that I haven't seen before. And that's where this, like, is going to take me, because otherwise I'm like, oh, walking. If that makes sense. 17. This one, I wrote this list before going to Christmas in the States with a lot of my youngest family members, and I definitely had that on my mind and still have that on my mind. It is to bring some of my young cousins for a visit to Canada. This is sort of an ongoing joke, again, like, that I need to figure out an excuse to bring people to Canada, because a lot of the trips to the States within, like, the past 10 years that we have made, aside from, like, holidays, have been for, like, people's weddings or, like, new baby stuff, or, yeah, like kids' birthdays and that kind of thing. And so my cousin sometimes will joke, like, you need to come up with an excuse for us to come visit you in Canada. And especially, like, now that a lot of their kids are getting to the ages where they're like, well, what is Canada? Like, so I would like to figure out something because I don't want to get married. But I think that maybe my family can visit me anyway. Yeah, so that would be something cool to happen. And again, I don't know what it would be, like, how we would organize that. But I would like it to occur. 18. We're going back into these writer things, getting more specific. It's to revise my second novel. So I finished a complete draft of a second book, and I have other drafts that I would like to finish and that I want to work on, but I just need to focus in and, like, revise the second draft, or this first draft of this second novel. Yeah, that's the first thing that I need to do. 19 is to start a writing group. I've sort of begun to do this. I mostly just think, like, I would like to, I'd like to have a group that serves the functions that I want in a writing group, and is also helpful to other people. Like, one of those functions is, like, that it gets people who want to be writing, who are not actually writing, to actually do the writing. I think that there are a lot of writing groups that I lose patience with quickly because they kind of allow for this, like, people who want to talk about writing but don't really want to do it, or they just want to, like, be pretentious and weird with each other, but they're not actually doing the work. So, like, the writing groups that I've belonged to that I've really liked, it's literally been, like, you get together and you work. And you can talk about it, or like, but you're there to work. And so if any talking about writing for me needs to be hooked on the fact that, like, okay, you're not just there to show off, you're not just like, you're there because you want to work and you want, you know, people to work alongside you who are also like doing the thing. And most writing groups that are not that are somewhat tedious and annoying. So that is why I would like to start one that is that. And I've like had little pods here and there of doing that. And like I taught like a little writing workshop that was like aimed at getting people to start writing, and in the hopes of like turning some of those people into my peer pressure friends, who would actually want to come together and like write for, you know, a couple hours a week. But I just haven't really like moved forward on that and turned it into like a weekly thing or something. So I would like that to be a thing. 20, claim a celebration. So I think this happens actually, I think I might be right on schedule with this one, because I feel like it's something that happens to people more in like midlife, or like when they're established in their lives, which again, like, is one of these things, like, I don't really, it's hard to know what the benchmarkers of like being an established person are when you're not doing when you're just opting out of a lot of the things that are like get married and like, or even move in with somebody or whatever, and like establish a household with another person, and like if that's not your thing, then when do you know when you're a real person? I don't know. So, but like that oftentimes it'll be like couples or families will have sort of like, we do the New Year's party and everybody comes to our New Year's party, or like we have this holiday that we like celebrate, we do a big Halloween party, and or even like some people I know, it's like their anniversary party is like a big party for all their friends every year, and it's not really about like celebrating their anniversary or whatever, but it is like, this is our chance to sort of host and catch up with people, you know, who maybe we only see this one time of year. Like, one of my best friends, like his family would have like, it started out as a Groundhog Day party every year, and then it just kept like getting pushed later and later, and then it became a Valentine's Day party every year. But that was their like big family celebration, and that we went to every year, and it was great because you'd see like different generations of people kind of having like overlapping parties all over the house, and so I would like to like feel like I claim a celebration, and I kind of feel like a little bit earlier in my life it kind of had been like a solstice-y kind of timeline like party that me and my brother had done every year, and we didn't do it this year, and like last year it was more sort of like an after Christmas kind of thing. So I kind of feel like a little bit like I flunked this year and trying to establish that, but I just wrote it on the list because I wanted to remind myself like that is a thing that will like make me feel like a person who has some sense of consistency in the world. And something is, yeah, and that I think I'm probably like fairly on schedule for that one, and it may not be like solstice times because like maybe that's a bad choice because the holidays are super busy, and especially as more and more of our friends' lives are sort of changing, and that's not necessarily the time when we can see them, but that's a thing. 21. I would like to travel the Trans-Canada Trail. I am not sure how I would like to do this. There are many options. It just goes along more general with like, I want to do more, I did a bit of like bushwalking, aka hiking, when I was living in Australia, and it made me go like, oh, I should do this at home because we also have like stretches of land to traverse that are interesting and that I've never really seen before, and definitely not seen in the kind of like intimate way that you see things when you're like crossing uh, like a section of landscape in the slowest way possible. Yeah, so that is something I would like to do. 22 is to hike the Rito Trail. This is like probably going to go before because it's a much smaller and more achievable goal. So the Rito Trail stretches from Kingston to Ottawa. I live right in the middle of it. I don't necessarily know, like, it would be cool at some point to do the whole thing, but it may not get done all at the same time. You know what I mean? Like, what I may end up doing is like, okay, at some point I'll walk from where I am to the Ottawa part, and at some point I'll walk from where I am to the Kingston part, as opposed to doing the whole thing. But who knows? And I've done like sections of it, like once or twice in like when I was younger. We had friends who like we would go canoeing and then camp, but I have not done the whole thing. 23. I would like to spend time in every province and territory. So I have, at this point, depending on my definition of spend time here, which I was not very specific, these are not SMART goals. I'm well aware of that. So I've been to certainly all of the East Coast, like maritime provinces, and obviously like definitely qualify for having spent time in New Brunswick. I live in Ontario now. I have been to Quebec quite a fair bit. I have a lot of friends who live there and relatives as well. There's a lot in the middle that is like kind of a mystery to me, like Manitoba, Saskatchewan. I've spent much more time in Calgary in the past couple of years, but I mean like 2 weeks total. Just because my best friend has moved out there, and I spent some time in BC this summer, but I haven't done like the territories. I haven't done Labrador, and there's other places that I just like. I feel like I've been to, but I haven't spent enough time to be like, oh yeah, I've spent time there, especially not like as an adult. And so yeah, I would like to intentionally do that. Obviously that goes together with some of these other goals, like Trans-Canada Trail would hook into that, but then the territories are way up here, and that's a whole other thing. But I would really like to, yeah, I would definitely like to spend time in the north as well. And again, like, that's such a super broad goal, and some of it I've done before 30, and some of it I'm doing after, and to repeat myself, because that is the point. Like, that is okay. It is okay that some of these things are happening after this arbitrary deadline that, for whatever reason, like, looms really large in the, like, do the thing before the time. 24, have a doctor. I have not in my adult life had, like, a family doctor, partly because I've moved around a lot, and yeah, I mean, I think it would be helpful. It's kind of a little bit pointless to live in a country where you have like universal health care and not actually have like a physician who you can see when you need to, who will tell you what's wrong with your body. Because there's lots of things that are clearly wrong with my body, but I don't know what they are. So that's a goal. That's like a practical goal that hopefully I will solve sooner rather than later. 25, see a dentist. Yeah, so this one's harder because, like, universal healthcare does not include your mouth, which is where many expensive problems happen. Get it together, Canada. 27, make theater jams a thing. I've had some stops and starts with this one. This is something, like, I've sort of tried to do since high school. I've done it with more success and less success at different times. So I grew up in a culture where, like, music jams was, like, an every Friday night kind of thing. And it would just be, you know, people who like to play music getting together to play music at somebody's house. And so I, for a while, have just had this idea that like we should have that same thing for theater, because it like there's not really a reason not to, because it's very easy, just like even in some ways easier than doing the music thing, because you don't even need instruments or like special skills besides like reading, or if you're an improv person, like not even that, to just like get together with people and be like, okay, we're gonna do a thing, we're gonna like make something happen in this space that, you know, is like ephemeral and just like it makes us happy, and it's like we get to share like this activity that we like doing. And yeah, so I've kind of like tried to pull together a group of people who might be interested in doing this, but again, have not really succeeded in getting anybody engaged to the level where it's like, okay, we're gonna do the thing, and then people actually show up and do it. And then also feel like the momentum of like, okay, we'll have a jam at my house like next month or whatever. So that's, I think, the engagement level is something that like I feel like I'm on the precipice of figuring it out. Like people seem interested but not quite engaged, and that's the thing. And you know, it's been a good decade and a half since I've been trying to do this, but that's okay. Because, like, again, I've moved around a lot, and sometimes it has happened, and the times that it has happened have been beautiful and wonderful. And I'm just at the point where I was like, we just need to make it a thing. We just need to keep trying to do it so that people think of it as a thing that happens. Okay. I skipped 26. It's a really boring one. But I'm 31. I'm sorry. Everything can't be fun. It's to pay off my credit card. I don't have like a huge amount of credit card debt, but I definitely... it could be less because there's some. And it would be nice to have there be zero. So that's a goal. 28. Get a bike. This is another like, again. Do it again. Yeah, I haven't had a bike since I moved into this apartment, like since I moved back from Australia 2 years ago, and it is annoying to not have one. But again, it's like one of these things, it's like, okay, you gotta figure it out. So I need a bike. 29. This is another one, it's like, this is not fun. This is not one like I want to do, but it is one that I like acknowledged as a semi-mature adult I should probably do, is to develop a morning routine. I think part of the thing is like most of my jobs now, even if they are at a scheduled time and place, which a lot of the work I'm doing is not, a lot of it's from home, even if they are at a scheduled time and place, it is not in the morning. And so I think I need to develop, and so like when I do have stuff to do in the morning, I'm pretty good at like, yeah, okay, like do whatever you have to like do the things you need to get done before you have to be at the place. And so like the problem is that because I'm used to that mentality, I tend to like stretch out like all of those morning tasks into whatever space I have before I have to be somewhere. And so there's some days when like I just don't do those things. You know, I don't do like the regular like make breakfast, wash the dishes. Like I just like I don't eat predictably. I don't like brush my teeth until 5 seconds before I have to leave the house. And yeah, so I think I would just like to get better at like I've gotten as far as like I have a time that I wake up, and it's like whether or not you need to, like you have an alarm set for this time, and like you're going to have to wake up at least long enough to turn off the alarm. But I haven't really developed it beyond that where I'm like, okay, and then by 9 a.m. say you have to have these things done and have like momentum to move on with your day. And I think it'll be good for me to actually act like that's a rule. I am bad at acting like things are rules because I know that I can let myself get away with things. It's just like a bad combination with this whole like millennial gig economy thing where nothing is scheduled. Yeah, it's a problem. So I need to be a stricter boss to myself about mornings specifically, and then we'll work on like making myself go to bed. I will take a little while longer to like be a grumpy toddler about that, I think. But I think if I can make mornings happen, I'll be on the right track. We'll find out. 30. This is the least smart goal of all, but that's okay. It's to have a stable income. And again, like, this is one of those things that is like a simple enough statement, but is also like a really broad thing, like becoming a foster or adoptive parent, that like, that's just, it's a lot. And it's like, but it is something to remind myself, like, okay, that's something that would be good. And if I can look towards the future as like, okay, if this is something that you can make happen, like a lot of these other things become more possible. It becomes like, it's just like, it becomes more possible to do the things you want to do. And some of that, you know, is in my control and some of it is not. And it's just sort of there as a reminder that like, okay, do the things that are in your control to be more stable. And a lot of that, what is getting in my way of stability right now is like financial stuff. And there is definitely stuff that I could be doing better to be responsible in that, so that I have less like panic and stress in that area of my life. That's like a really boring note to end on. I should have like stacked these more carefully. But anyway, you can still do stuff after 30. And this lollipop is fine.